Hello and welcome to the Elvis podcast, brought to you by the Beyond Compulsion Academy. Today I'm just going to talk a little bit about why motivation never lasts long when you're trying to stop watching porn. So, as far as I'm concerned, when you want to start watching porn, there's a present moment and there's a choice. Now, in the past, when I used to struggle with pornography addiction, I'd often have these thoughts like, okay, this is going to be the last time I'm going to do it. I'll start again tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be day one of NoFap. I had a few counters, like apps that'd count my streak as well. So I had like Brain Buddy, that was the main porn addiction recovery app I used to use. And then I had different counters as well that would say like, you're on day 32 and 7 hours and 43 minutes. And I'd be like, all right, well, reset that, bang, reset. Okay, start again, fresh start, back on day one, like the next day. And I'd have a lot of excitement and motivation around that. I honestly did feel quite excited at times on day one. I'd still have those consequences like the foggy brain and feeling like a bit of a zombie. But then sometimes I'd get like these bursts of motivation. All right, this is it now. This is time to go. I'm going to change all my habits. I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to like work out for like 7 hours or whatever bullshit I used to think. And I was like quite motivated. And then I'd feel exhausted and I'd be back in that sort of horrible mental state after relapsing. And it was all just a bit all over the place. And I was very unstable, I suppose, which is hard to share, but just the truth, really, looking back. So that was where I was at. What I've realised is like motivation just has nothing to do with solving this issue. At least it can get you to go on a mission to learn. I think you need that. Like you need to have that desire to want to stop engaging in the behavior. Like you're not going to change until you have a desire to change, like obviously. So I suppose you need some motivation, but in terms of the actual process and strategy and tactics of how to solve this issue, relying on motivation is definitely not going to work, because here's the thing, when you have a porn addiction or like a problem with porn, compulsive porn use in your life, you have these different parts in your mind. And it's almost like they're active at different times. So you have like the rational part of your mind, you want to stop the behavior, great. Then you've got the addictive part of the mind. And wow, like the addictive part of the mind can be pretty brutal to deal with. It just wants one thing. It wants you to relapse. You also got the child self, all right? So it can be some sort of childlike emotions that come up, especially when maybe you've gone through some trauma and something like kind of triggers those feelings that you once felt when you were younger. So you got these different parts in your mind. What then happens is, you could be doing fine and you're working on things, you're going to your job, you're getting on well with your wife, your kids, whatever, and everything's all right. And then it's kind of like out of nowhere, you have that compulsive desire. Maybe you get triggered by something as such, or you just have a thought about watching porn, or maybe your family goes out of the house and it's like, all right, this is the opportunity. Like I'm all on my own, or you're in the hotel room and you got nothing to do for the evening on your business trip. And it's like, that's the moment right there. It's like all that motivation that you've just had for weeks, it can kind of go out the window. And the addictive part of the mind just wants to seize this opportunity to get you to relapse. A recent one actually that a few clients have been talking about inside the Beyond Compulsion Academy is that feeling when you get back from like going out for a run. And I really resonated with this one in particular actually, because when I get back from football, sometimes for whatever reason, maybe it's like, I don't even need to figure it out, but for whatever reason, sometimes I can just have a bit of compulsive desire and I want to like check my phone, or even at times, I've wanted to engage in compulsive behavior. So yeah, watch porn in the past for sure. I've had those desires. So sometimes it just comes out of nowhere. And that motivation that you had of like, right, this is the last time, I'm never going to do it again. I'm going to go on my longest streak. I'm finally going to solve this issue. It kind of just goes out of your brain. And it's like, now all you can focus on is engaging in this behavior. And I tell you what it feels like. It feels like your brain gets very narrow. It's like you sort of feel restricted in your thinking, and it's just this one thing you want to do, and then part of your mind's like, no, I shouldn't do that, I can't do that, no. And then you just end up doing it anyway, and it's like, oh, fuck, I'm back here again, for God's sake, jeez. Oh, this is annoying. Sorry to use God. I know people don't like that. We've had a few comments say like, don't say God's name in vain. But yeah, that's how it feels, right? You just feel like, wow, how have I ended up here again? Jeez, this is frustrating. So I get that, that's where I was for years and years and years. And I just rely on the motivation. I go back on the streak, reset the counter, let's get David Goggins on, watch some motivational videos, do some push-ups, go in plank pose for a while. Yeah, this is going to do it. It's just crazy looking back on how I used to think due to, I suppose, my indoctrination from no-fap YouTubers. But here's the thing, right? The most important thing, if you want to solve this issue, is really about getting connected to that desire in the present moment. So once you're trained and you know how to deal with that desire, and you're confident in your ability to get connected to the desire without feeling, shame, without feeling like there's anything wrong with you, and just knowing, yep, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get connected to this desire. And you begin to think it through rationally, and you start to do that repeatedly, you can grow in confidence and self-trust. And what you want to do is just start to take things moment by moment, scrap the sort of motivation mentality, get rid of your streak, I'm not saying go relapse. I'm just saying like counters and streaks and that whole no-fap sort of mentality. It's not going to get you anywhere. Instead, it's just about knowing at all times, yeah, okay, if I have a desire, I know how to deal with that. Once you've solved that issue, you're going to be good. You're going to be fine. And I think it's just so important to realize that motivation doesn't get you anywhere, because there's different parts in your mind with different objectives. And that addictive part of the mind doesn't care at all about the fact that 2 weeks ago you got all hyped up and motivated. Like, that moment's gone, and now suddenly you have a compulsive desire. So that's why what you want to do is get trained on dealing with compulsive desire, so that at all times, no matter how shit you feel, you can deal with that desire. And then over time, when you do this repeatedly, you deal with the addictive part of the mind over and over and over. And the addictive part of the mind is that part of your mind that just wants you to relapse, because you've wired your brain through repetition of engaging in the behavior in the past to want to engage in this behavior again in the future. So the addictive part of the mind wants you to relapse, but once you know how to deal with that part of your mind, you're going to be good. And I think on the other side of this issue, when you're dealing with the desire correctly, you will definitely stop relying on motivation, and you'll realize that this isn't to do with motivation. It's not to do with discipline or willpower or strength. It's really about dealing with that part of your mind that just wants you to relapse. That's what this issue is about. You solve that, you're good to go. All right. If you'd like to learn more about doing that, feel free to book in a discovery call with myself. I'll leave a link below. Cheers for listening. Hopefully this helps you shift your perspective on things a little bit, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.